All right, so I think it's being recorded. All right, hello everyone. So this is Mesos Containerization Working Group. Today is June 15. This is our third time, and just a reminder, the meeting is recorded. So today's topic is going to be. Let me share my screen. So today's topic is going to be. Ilya is going to show us and lead the discussion on the volume group and the ownership cleanup work. So let me show this. Let me share my screen. All right. Can you guys see my screen? Yep. All right, cool. So Ilya, do you want to kick off the meeting? I can take notes.
Yeah, okay. So do I have to share my screen or?
Oh yeah, you can share your screen actually. Sorry, I forgot that. Yeah. Okay. Can you share your screen? And I'll take notes in the doc.
Yeah, okay. It says I cannot share while the other participant is sharing.
No, okay. All right. Try it again.
Okay. How do I do it? Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, volume ownership in Mesos. So, we have, in Mesos, we have persistent volumes, and there is one problem with them right now. When the agent is trying to mount the persistent volume that is not already owned by, is not already used, then it sets the ownership of that volume to match it of the Sandbox directory. This is completely fine, but if the volume is currently in use by other containers and supposedly those other containers are running as different users, then tasks in the newly launched container will fail because they will fail to read or write from the persistent volume because of incompatible ownership and permissions. So what we want to do, we want to support two scenarios. First scenario is where all containers are running as the same user. It can be root or non-root. The case when they all are root is completely fine because they have access to everything. If they are running as a non-root user, then still they will have access to the persistent volume that they are sharing because they are running as the same user and the volume is owned by that user. The other case is when all containers are running as a mix of various users. Those can be root or non-root. So root containers that are running as root users are fine again because they have root permissions, and containers that are not non-root, then they will have problems because some container will own the volume and others will just fail miserably.
Can you pause a little second? So yeah, I think I want to add something more here. I think it's more than this problem. I think the problem you're mentioning here is like say multiple containers wants to share a volume, and that volume can be either persistent volume I think in Mesos right now, we have a lot of type of volumes. One is called persistent volume, where you can actually persist the data on the local machine. And some other volume like host volume, which is the ownership is totally out of band because for example, a container say, hey, I want to mount a host volume into my container, and the permission of that volume is totally up to the operator to configure the host volume. I mean, we potentially cannot change that. So host volume is one thing, persistent volume, and we also have like Docker volume, which is kind of external volume. In the future, we will have like a persistent volume backed by CSI, like kind of ish volumes. So I think there are multiple problems. Another dimension of this problem is Docker container itself might have a different. I mean, another volume we have. Sorry. Let me try to be thorough. I think another volume we have is Sandbox itself. And we bind, like when you launch a Docker container or like use like a universal containerizer to launch Docker container, the Sandbox will bind mount into that container as well. And then we want to make sure the container have access to that volume, the Sandbox directory. But the problem is like some Docker images do set users in their Docker image. So so right now the solution is we always pick the host user ID and GID so that we make sure that the process inside that Docker container can access to that Sandbox. But this is like not ideal. Like I wish like we have a better solution for that, but I don't know what exactly the solution is. Yeah, just give more context on this problem. So we have multiple problems to solve here. And then the goal of this meeting is trying to brainstorm what are the potential solutions that we can solve those issues and see what can we go from there.
Yeah, we can just discuss the solution of this particular problem with the persistent volumes, and possibly this solution will be applicable to the other problems.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. I think the goal is with this meeting just trying to brainstorm what are the potential solutions and see if that can solve all these problems. If not, then we can discuss from there.
Yeah, so to the possible solutions. One of the possible solutions is using the good old Unix groups. There is a thing that's called a supplementary group. It's actually a list of groups that can be assigned to the process besides the process primary group, and we can use it this way. So when there is more than one UID that needs to use the persistent volume, we can set the volume's ownership to be root and some root as the user of the volume, and we can use some kind of group or in Git, and set the permissions to that volume to 2770. It's read, write, execute to the user, read, write, execute to the group, and plus a setgid bit. Setgid bit. Setgid is required so that all files that are created in that volume will inherit the gid of that volume, and additionally, all subdirectories in that volume will inherit the setgid bit. So we can extend the container launch info with a list of supplementary groups, supplementary gits that will be passed to the launcher, and the launcher will simply set all those gits for the process that it's running inside the container, in addition to all the supplementary gits that it's already setting. And this will allow the process in the container to access the volume without changing its UID or git. So it can have any primary any git UID and primary git.
I have one question. So why root? So why the ownership of the volume is root? Is that because agent create the volume and then the default user of the agent is root? So that's
for example.
I see. Okay.
Actually, it can be any other user. It doesn't matter here because what we care about is the group. Yeah,
but you probably don't want to set the ownership to be some like unprivileged users that everyone can access to.
Yeah.
Okay.
For security reasons.
Okay. So go ahead. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Ilya, in the problem section of this document, I think it might be worthwhile specifying the semantic that we want from these volumes. So, for example, what read-write semantics do you want? Do you want different users to be able to write files, different users to just different users to be able to delete each other's files in there? So just making those file system semantic characteristics explicit, it really puts the solutions into a better context.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like we should call out like what exactly the semantics we want to support for that. Like for example, you want to allow multiple containers to share the same, to be able to access to the same persistent volume, or you want multiple containers to be able to like what's the file system like what's the goal, eventual goal you want to achieve for different type of volumes that I mentioned earlier.
Right. So one example of that is, so I think we were talking about this before, which is at least with the persistent volume case, we first initially changed ownership of all of the files under the directory, and then later changed to actually not touch the files, but rather only the top level directory of that volume. So it's not clear in this work, do we care about all of the files ever written by other users? And since they're still being used simultaneously, I'm guessing not.
Yeah, I think so, Ian. I think my understanding of the solution here is all the files created by the container, it will be owned. The primary group and primary UID is going to be whatever the primary GID and UID of that process. But at the same time, we also make sure that this proposed solution also makes sure that it added a supplementary group to that
to all of the files.
To all the files, so that all these files can be accessible by, well, we haven't decided yet. So that's one way is to like recursively change the ownership, like recursively add this additional GID to all the files. Another approach is like you don't do that. You only do the top level directory, so that to make sure that at least the other container has access to that volume, but not necessarily the files that potentially owned by some other container.
There's also this implicit assumption that all the tasks that are running and using this container could be running as different users. And I guess that's one way to do it, but I guess that's not compulsory, right? One way to address the issue would be to just run everything that uses the same volume as the same user.
Sorry, say it again. Sorry, I don't get that part.
So you have this, and I think in this document, there's the implicit assumption that tasks that are accessing the volume are running as different users under different UIDs.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to be just an assumption. There's no requirement for that to be true.
Oh yeah, sure, of course. That you definitely can't have multiple containers running on the same user that try to access the same volume.
But I think what Jim's point was that if you require all of the tasks that need to access the same volume to be the same user, then this is not a problem.
Oh, I see. So
yeah, that's
okay,
right.
I see. Got it. So you're saying like if you require that, if have that requirement that if all the containers that wants to access the same persistent volume has to be under the same user, then we don't have to solve that issues because it works right now. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah, that's one potential solution. Yeah, I think like we should like call out all the options. This is just one option. I think we have some other options. Yeah, let me document this in the notes.
Right.
That all containers that wants to access the same volume are under the same UID user. All right, so I think we should keep moving on this approach and then do more thorough discussion on that option and then move to the next option. And then we finally discuss if there's any other options to solve those issues. And then we can do more discussion there. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah, because I know this is the approach that Kubernetes took to solve the ownership issue. So I think we should be thorough here and try to evaluate what's the implication and does that make sense, things like that.
Right, I have something to add about specifically for persistent volumes, but I will wait until all of this design approaches are finished.
Yeah. So Ilya, I have another question. I think I mentioned in the doc. So the group here, who generated that group ID?
This actually is a good question. There are multiple approaches here. For example, Kubernetes allows to explicitly specify the GID for the volume. It's their FS group parameter that is passed to kubelet, or how do they call it? Another approach is to generate it on the fly by the agent itself. We don't even have to create a group. We just have to use some GID, and that's all, because the kernel doesn't care actually about.
I see, but you do have some restriction, like for example, for different volumes, you don't want them to be assigned to the same GID, because otherwise then potentially some tasks are not authorized to access to a certain volume, can basically access to a volume that it's not intended to. So you may want to like generate one GID for each volume.
Yeah,
I don't know, like either each volume, each row. I don't know what's the best way, but yeah, I know this is an approach that generate based on some rules and then make sure that it does not conflicts if for different volumes.
And don't you also need to ensure that the GID is not, doesn't overlap with the existing set of GIDs used by the identity service?
True.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, should we also worry about like the Etsy, group file being read-only and stuff, like the read-only root file system thing, if we need to add a new GID to it?
So Jason, is it?
That's me.
Okay, yeah. So I think that GID is on the host file system, because agent essentially is the one that create that directory, like that volume, and do the addition of the supplementary group.
Right. I'm talking about in like within the container, and that container process needs to have that write access, and it's a group access, and the container root file system also has to have it, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's just an ID. My understanding is you probably don't need to do that. Like you don't have to map an ID to an actual string inside the container. All you need to do is for the process launching inside the container, the first process, you make sure that it has this supplementary group in its group list. So basically called setgid. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. Correct me if I was wrong.
Yeah, I think that's the case.
Okay. Yeah, I think it has nothing to do with the file. But I guess if you want to say, hey, I want this GID to map to a concrete user inside the container file system, then it's a different story. I don't know how to do that. Most likely we are not able to do this, but that's my understanding.
Got it.
All right, any other questions so far? Like everyone understand this approach? Can you elaborate a little bit on the setgid bits? What is that?
Setgid bit, when it's set on a directory, it basically it makes all the files that are created in that directory to inherit the group of that directory, and all the subdirectories of that directory to inherit the setgid bit. That's all what it does.
I see. But for example, I say I have two containers wants to access to the same volume, and the first container FS, like say someone specified the FS group to be things like 1,000, and then the second container is 1,001. So you set GID on that volume to be 1,000 and 1,001. So all the files created by the
no, the setgid the volume will have a different GID.
Yeah, but
the one that will be set as a supplementary GID, not the primary or the FS GID.
Yeah, but you're saying like once the directory has a set GID bits, then all the files created under that directory by default has the supplementary group ID, or
yeah.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter which primary GID the process that creates a file has, because that file will inherit GID from the volume because of the set GID bit.
So the primary, so the GID of the file is essentially that that supplementary group ID that you specify.
Yeah, the one that the one that owns the volume.
Okay. Okay. I probably need to do some
So
digging.
it won't matter what primary GID or UID the process that creates the file has.
So okay, so just get it straight. So like say the volume ownership is root colon and that group is 1,000. So the files created under that directory is going to be under group 1,000.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Okay. What's the purpose of that one? Just trying to make sure that the files can be accessed by the container.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the purpose of this is so that new files that are created by tasks can later on be accessed by other tasks. Is that correct, Ilya?
Yes, because if we remove the setgid bit, then, for example, one container runs as UID 1000 and GID 1000, and the other one is running as UID 1001 and GID 1001. And files that first container creates in that volume will not be accessible by the other containers.
Okay, yeah, so yeah,
because they will have different ownership.
Yeah, but my question is like, is that intended, or like, why do we need to make sure that a container's file can be seen by other container?
That's discussable.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that's something that we need to figure out. I know like Kubernetes did that, but I don't know if like this is the right semantics or not for us, because if you want the file created by a task to be accessible by another task, you can certainly make sure that like their user matches or some of their group matches, things like that. So there's multiple ways you can achieve that, and I don't know if that's okay.
Right, but the issue that Ilya is addressing with this is what is the mode for creating the files, right? So if you have so the ownership of the group is going to be created with the group of the primary group ID or the file system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have, if you want that to be accessible later on, then you need to carefully arrange the credential so the correct group is in the correct order.
Yeah, I see.
Otherwise, this lets you just kind of inherit it automatically, but only on Linux.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I mean, so that means like that GID is pretty important, because like say the task finishes, the next time I want to make sure that GID, like the supplementary group ID, is the same as we used before. So that means like dynamically generating an ID doesn't make sense. We need to make sure that it's like it's a fixed mapping so that I can reuse that GID next time I create a container. Like say the task crashes and then relaunched by the framework.
Yeah, it will have to be persisted somewhere.
You have to be persisted somewhere, or like you derive that from somewhere, and then make sure it's the same for the same volume all the time. It cannot be like an on-the-fly generated ID, and it can be. I mean, it should not be different in different runs. Okay, so let's move forward and see what's left there in the doc.
The other approach that I thought of would be to use ACLs, access control lists. I thought that they are Linux specific, but turns out they are not. Yeah, what they allow is when a user needs to access the persistent volume, then we can just explicitly give that user permissions on that volume. This looks very nice and very good to us, but the problem is that effective permissions and the default ACLs that are inherited for newly created objects in the volume, that logic is kind of complicated, and well, for me, it looks hard to manage, because those default ACLs, the inherited ACLs, they take into account the mode of the file when it's created, and when the mode changes, the ACL does not change. So I think, jpeach, you know a lot about those ACLs. Maybe you can tell us about them. About your experience with them.
So ACLs are wacky, and they're terrible on Unix because of modes. ACLs for this application are basically exactly what you want, do exactly what you want on Windows. So I think for the Windows people, they're going to want to just put ACL on the volume, and that'll work for them. I don't know about the default ACL inheritance on Linux. So Ilya, when you looked at this, do you know if the default ACL is actually inherited to child file system objects?
Yeah, there is a flag that you can set so that ACL will be inherited, but
does that inherit the ACL or also the default ACL? Because the default ACL is the thing that specifies what gets inherited. So on the second level, you need that to be you need to set not only the ACL but also the default ACL for the subdirectory.
Yeah. Well. As it's said right here.
Okay, number one. Yep.
Yeah. The default ACL. Is inherited.
So I have a question. So does that ACL works for all the file system, or like is it file system specific, or like it's general to all the file systems?
It's kind of specific. The file system has to support it, but as far as I know, XT, all of them are supporting it, and
it's in the VFS. The ACLs themselves, I think, are in the VFS layer. The file system just needs to support the security for extended attributes.
Do you guys know like if NFS support that or not?
NFS v4.
I think yes.
NFS v4 basically has the Windows Apple model.
I see, got it. So NFS v4, okay.
Yeah.
And the ext4 and the XFS also supports that.
Yeah. So the ACLs are not very portable though. I don't know what BSD does. I know Mac OS 10, so OS 10 ACLs are different. OS 10 ACLs work basically like the Windows ACLs with the addition of mode bits.
I see. I checked the doc. I saw the ACL is actually under POSIX. So that means Linux is not like a POSIX compliant.
There's a what people call POSIX ACLs is the abandoned ACL draft.
Ah, I see.
There was a draft which was abandoned and never got anywhere. So people kind of start with that, take that as a starting point, and then extend it for their own system.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I think Ilya, I think like it would be great to also extend that part because you probably need to give some people some background on this one because I'm not super familiar with that one. And I believe most people don't understand how ACL works. And I think like it would be great to like maybe like have some background to just give a like say like basically how this thing works and what's the problem like and why we cannot use that. I guess like that all depends on what the problem we're trying to solve. So I think the first priority is trying to figure out trying to in the doc specify all the problem we are trying to solve, and these are the like proposed solutions and what are the limitations, and then we pick one that we want to go forward. So that's kind of my suggestion. I kind of agree with jpeach that we should have a problem statement very clearly in the doc first. So based on the discussion, it sounds like ACL is not a good solution based on you guys' conversation. But certainly I need to take a look at that one too. I'm not super
it's kind of convoluted because, for example, when the default ACL is calculated, then let's say you're creating a file with the mode 700.
Mm-hmm.
Then your inherited ACL will, well, it will miss. It will miss, as it says right here, it will miss the permission bits, so that are not contained by permissions that are specified by the mode parameter.
I see.
And yeah, this seems a bit wrong. Probably there were some reasoning behind it. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, the reasoning behind it is that with mode bits are kind of wonky and they don't really behave in the same way as people want ACLs to behave. So anytime you go down the path of trying to combine a system with mode bits and ACLs, you end up with these kind of corner cases of, well, which one means what and how do you combine the meanings of the two. So I do agree with Ilya that I think in the Linux world, ACLs aren't actually widely used in practice, and the complexity is kind of daunting, and I think there's a lot of potential for people to get nasty surprises.
I see. Okay. Great. Okay. Ilya, do you have anything else in the doc, or that's it?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. So yanx, you mentioned you want to say something on this after.
Right. So actually, so what's left on the doc is the 4 tickets that are in the relevant tickets section, and particularly the second one. So 4893 is what we've done as previous attempt, not for changing the ownership of the volume for each task, but rather to specifically have you specify the owner and the group, and basically all of the relevant bits when you are actually creating the persistent volume. But of course, that's only applicable to the persistent volume, so I don't know how versatile we want to make this to be. But the problem with that is in India already had the code, and he had a design doc, and I think G and myself and in India actually have talked about them. But the problem eventually that kind of stalled this was that we don't have a mechanism for the operation, this kind of a resource operation. So I think this ties very close to G's proposal on the resource providers. But the problem with persistent volume is that you can, so the framework can request this UID, this GID, and this list of supplementary GIDs to be set. However, what if that doesn't work? What if it fails to do that? Then the agent currently lacks this mechanism to tell the framework that this operation has failed. So that's what I hope with the resource provider work. Alongside with it, we can standardize on this feedback, the status update for all of these operations. And with that, then I think we can then continue this to have the persistent volume creator to specify the UID, GID, and the supplementary GIDs.
So the API is going to be, so if I remember correctly, the API is going to be the integer number for UID, GID when you create the volume? Or the actual string, like the actual just a user, and then you derive the groups based on that user on the actual host.
Right. So we've talked about this last time, which is the idea is stolen from the OCI, either the OCI or the CoreOS AppC spec, which is you try to stay above this level of abstraction. You just provide this string, and then the agent will first try to interpret this string as a name and try to look up for this name. And if it fails, then it tries to interpret it as an integer.
Okay, so you're saying like the API level is still string, and then translate to the ID on the host. And similar to like we do that for like a user of the framework and the user in the command.
Right.
Okay.
But I guess for user, for tasks and commands, it's specifically, it has to be a name, right? It cannot be just the numeric.
And you're saying like basically in this model, like you control the creation and you control the permission, the ownership of the volume that someone create, and whether a container can access to the volume purely depends on the operator config, the user, and the group information.
Well, the bet is that your cluster should be homogeneous enough so that, and which is true, I think, when we are running these clusters in the organizations I've worked with, you do, so the framework can more or less be certain that certain users and IDs are on all of the boxes. So it's ultimately the framework's choice to first create volumes in a satisfactory way that can support its usage pattern, and then launch tasks that conform to that usage pattern, so that you do not run into violations of security and permissions. So that in certain way probably is gonna alleviate the problem with changing GIDs and using different supplementary GIDs every time. But what I'm not certain is, outside of the persistent volume case, if you have all these volumes external and from host, and what you would do about them.
Yeah, I think like for host volume, it's pretty clear that we should never change the permission ownership of the host volume, because otherwise it's a biggest, like for example, someone can just say, I want a host volume /etc/password, and then change the ownership of that one to something else. That just doesn't work because it's gonna breach the security. I mean, to be honest, like actually like I feel like a host volume is evil. We should like disallow that somehow. Sandbox, we can decide what we want to do because it's owned by a single container, so it doesn't matter. External volume is a tricky case, but I think like the goal eventually is gonna, like, we don't have external volume because that's gonna be deprecated. Well, not deprecated, but like it's not gonna be like something that we're gonna support long term. And all things is gonna be the CSI based volumes, the persistent volume. So as long as we figure out a solution for persistent volume, that I think that should cover all the external volume cases as well.
So the CSI supported volumes, they're still ultimately created by the framework. So I think if the same thing can happen for these, and have the framework designate what UID, GID, and supplementary GIDs to give to these volumes, can still work, right? Yeah,
so just FYI, so CSS spec right now does not have that user and information in the spec. So there's currently no way that an operator or a framework can create a volume to be under a particular group. So there, I mean, you can pass as a parameter, but there's no like a general way to like a very specific way to do this.
I see.
At the moment, but that's something we can change. Like, I mean, you guys can propose that thing in CSR repo as well. Like, so that, like, for example, when you create a volume, you can actually say, hey, this is a user in a group I want that volume to be under. But it's gonna be tricky because like the CSI is gonna handle like not just, it's gonna be very general. Like it should handle NFS, all these kind of like a different storage backend. So different storage backend have different way of dealing user and group. So I don't know how general that mechanic can be. But that's something, I guess if I understand correctly, your proposal is very similar to James' comments earlier that require all container that wants to access the same volume to be under the same user. It's along that direction. Am I understanding?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's true. So
yeah, certainly, I think that's definitely an option. And regarding the feedback, that's something we are working on right now, so that we are trying to get feedback on all the offer operations, so that in the future you can get feedback at least. So that's the orthogonal issue, but we're trying to address that as part of the CS and resource provider work. But I mean, even if that's solved, we still need to have a discussion whether this is the right approach. And I think we need to do a third evaluation. I think this is a good start. But I think it's very interesting, like a refined talk. Or maybe I can work with you and yanx, and you guys can work with Ilya as well to add a problem statement. Like what I think we should agree on what the semantics we want to support, and then figure out a solution.
Right. So to me, the bar has to be set higher. So if because technology aside, I mean, allowing files and potentially, I don't know, millions of them to be modified upon a task launch or container creation, to be scanned, the directory scanned and modified, just to specify another user, sounds like it's a symptom that the scheduler doesn't know what it wants to do.
Are you talking about like recursively changing the group of the files under a volume?
Right.
I think there's some variation of the solution that Ilya have that in the doc. I think like the one way is like don't do recursive change group, just change the top level group ID.
Okay.
That's another way. So I think there are like multiple like variants of the solutions that we discussed in the doc, and we can discuss that later. But I think most important thing is we figure out what exactly the semantics do we want. What different type of volumes, like host volume, like what the semantics we want. Sandbox.
Yeah, I think that even whether ownership of the volume can be changed is an interesting question. Right. Should you be able to change the ownership of a volume once it's been created at all?
Yeah.
Right. So that's I think along with what I was trying to say, which is if we allow that, it has to provide this very this much better experience that you just don't get otherwise. Yeah.
All right, so I document those comments. Thanks for the comments. And what are the next steps? We have 13 minutes left. My feeling is the next step is yanx and jpeach, like and Ilya, like let's sit together, like and figure out. Let's work together on a doc on like the right semantics that we want to support, and then don't get the solution yet. Just like say, hey, this is what we want. Like let's agree on that first. I feel like we should do that first. I'll try to schedule a meeting on this one so that like we can work on this and towards a solution for that. Does that make sense to you guys?
Sounds good.
Anyone else are interested in this topic? Let me know and send an email to me, and I'll put you in the meeting. I think like the goal of that meeting is trying to figure out what the right semantics should be for this problem for each type of volumes. And then once we agree on that, let's think about solutions.
Cool.
Sounds good. That's my action item. I'll take that as notes. All right, so we have like 10 minutes left. I do want to go through the planning spreadsheet that we have last time. So Ilya, can you stop sharing and I can share my screen? Oh, you already did. Sorry about that. All right, so can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, so I think we have 10 minutes. I think I want to do a quick status update on these things. And like this is the kind of the thing in the first meeting, we kind of like list all the things that we want to do and their urgency and the effort estimation. We don't have a target release yet, but if you do have a target release, please put the target release, like which version you want this feature to be in, and so we can plan ahead. I just want to do a kind of status update like on all these like high priority items. And if you do want to say something about some like low priority items, please raise your hand and
right. So before you do that, sorry if I jumped ahead, but I do want to express my interest in looking into the lifecycle hooks for I don't know which line item it is.
Wait, lifecycle hook for what?
The containers. I think that's line 27.
Oh, this one.
Right. So certainly I wanted to talk to people who have already thought about this. But yeah, that's enough for what I wanted to interrupt you for. So
Okay,
just
sounds good.
go from the beginning. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I think Gilbert, you expressed interest on this one before, so can you work with yanx on this one?
Yeah,
Okay,
cool. Sure. This
Yeah,
one initially proposed by Jason.
Oh, Jason, actually,
Yeah.
yeah. Jason, are you interested in working with yanx on this one?
Yeah, sure. Well, we can talk offline about how we coordinate on this one.
Okay.
all right. Yeah, sounds good.
So great. So yanx, what's the priority for this one? So like last time we kind of slot this into T2, which means like it's not super urgent. Nice to have. I don't have immediate to use that.
What's T2? Well,
Nice to have.
one.
T1.
I-
T1 is like
yeah.
this feature has been planned in next 6 months, and we plan to roll out to production. That's T1. T0 is like I need that yesterday.
Yeah.
and
Well, yeah.
production.
Yeah. I think for my priority, T1 sounds more appropriate.
Okay. I'll change that to T1, and you can sync with Jason. I think Gilbert, you can maybe like shepherd this work.
Yes.
All right, so we don't have too much time left. So I want to go through like the T0 and T1 if possible. Like, what's the status on the image GC, Chita? Are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here. I think it's between design. Actually, I think it's in progress stage.
Okay.
Like I have a functional patch set that already can perform image GC through HTTP endpoint. It has been pending review, and Gilbert and I intend to release this in 1.4. So we even have a target release.
So 1.4 is the target release?
Yeah.
Yes.
All
By
right.
the way, G, do we have a schedule for which day 1.4 gonna be replaced?
It should be. So we do release every 3 months. So I think Windows 3 just got out, so it's gonna be like in 3 months.
No, I think we release a 3 month counting from the first release candidate cut, because 1.3 took quite a long while to release.
Okay, so it takes long. So maybe like in 2 months. I think like that building of 1.3 takes like a month, I think, which is something that we need to fix for sure. Okay, so 1.4 is something that you're looking for. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We just discussed the volume ownership and group cleanup thing. It's still in design. So I will because I think I'll add like jpeach and yanx. Is that okay? jpeach and yanx on this. Are you guys interested in this one?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. All right, cool. I think we just discussed that and documentation. So Gilbert, what's the status there?
So I have one patch locally to introduce each isolator. So this one should be one of the documentation patches, but we should have some others.
It's in progress. I changed that to in progress. Okay.
Yeah. So 1.4.
1.4. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So CPU affinity. I'm not sure if Dimitri is on the line.
I'm here.
Oh, hey, Dimitri. So any like follow up on the discussion last time?
I've been busy with other things, so it's
okay.
just the same as on the previous meeting.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. So it's still in design. Support private registry and Docker credential helpers. Mao, is Mao on the line? I think that's from Pinterest. So Gilbert, do you know the status there?
I did not have a chance to check out yet, but I can reach out.
I saw the ticket being created, but I don't see any progress there yet. Yeah, and maybe like reach out to Mao, see what's the status there, and are they still interested in like getting this feature? And
okay,
the target release they're looking for.
Okay, yeah.
IO isolation, block IOC group subsystems. Jason.
Yeah, here. So I actually submitted like one more patch for Gilbert's review, and Gilbert actually also got me some feedback on my first protocol from the patch. So I'll collaborate with Gilbert on those two, and also try to develop another patch for the stats collection.
Okay, great. So that's in progress.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. container disk cooldown enhancement, not only XFS or DU, Zhitao?
This is me. Actually, I rephrased this as limiting the root FS size. I think that was what I intended for. This one is pretty vague, so, and I just found an issue this morning. Yeah. Root FS size per container. Yes.
All right. So you have a ticket. Oh, so yeah, by the way, make sure to have a link. So for all these features, the owner should like have a link to the tickets. Just do a link here, do a hyperlink here. Make sure like everyone can access to the Jira to understand what's the context.
Mm-hmm.
So you just created a ticket, but you haven't started yet.
No, not started.
But it's still a high priority for you guys.
I think it's still T1. I hope we can get it before end of this year.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so I think this one, this one don't have an owner yet. I think I reached out to Kevin, but he sounds pretty busy. But I'll see like if I can find any owner for this feature. This one, Mikhail, are you on the line? No? Okay. Is Chen on the line? I guess he's not. I think OCI, I can speak for Chen. I'll shepherd this one. So I think he sent out a bunch of patches. I think it's in a place that we can review the code. But I do want to do some changes, especially regarding the caching and the store. I don't want to introduce like yet another store. I want to make sure that we are moving towards a unified caching directory for all the artifacts. So I'll chat with him on that and see if we can make an incremental step towards that direction. I think the rest looks good to me, and that's something we're actively working on. Yeah, so I think it's related to this. I'll see if he's interested in working on this as well. I mean, you guys should let me know if you want to work on any of these items, and then I'll update the doc. This one hasn't been started yet, but that's something that we are very interested in, especially we want to support things like Jenkins inside a Mesos container, like run a Docker daemon inside a Mesos container. So I'm kind of interested in this one. I plan to spend some time during MesosCon hackathon to hack on this. See if I can.
Can you expand that one with a link to what that would look like? Is that something like you would run a Docker daemon in a container and then the Docker daemon would launch Mesos nested containers? Like,
oh yeah, I'll link a ticket. I think it's mainly like just run a full-fledged Docker daemon inside a Mesos container, and then things like, for example, like I want to run Jenkins build job. I want to do Docker build in my Mesos container. We need to support that, but I don't want to use the host Docker daemon because it's a break of abstraction. I want to make sure that all the tasks launched by that Docker daemon get killed when the Mesos container tear down, things like that.
Okay, so it's Docker. So the goal is to have Docker plus all its containers nested within a single Mesos container.
True, that's true. I think like we have something missing. This is meaning like LXD already supports. Like you can run like a daemon inside a LXD container. So that's something we want to do as well. Like I think something missing is like CD namespaces, maybe user namespaces, things like that. So I'll rather take out this one, like what exactly the piece missing right now. Cool. I think we are running out of time. I think let me know if you have any update on any of the like low party stuff. Anything else? Any questions? Oh yeah. So I do want to like talk about the agenda next time. So anyone volunteer to present something next time in the working group or like a general discussion somewhere somehow?
So that's 2 weeks away, right?
Yes, that's in 2 weeks.
So I think if Jason and Gilbert, we can sit together and chat about the hooks.
Okay.
But I guess I'll have to let you know, not now, but closer to the next meeting.
Yeah, it does not have to be a design doc or something like that. It's just like hey, I want to discuss something. I want to get some feedback, and this is a good forum to get some feedback.
Sure.
And,
yeah.
And also it's a good forum to let people know what's going on in this area. For example, like jpeach, if you're okay, like maybe you can present the stuff you did for the capability stuff.
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay, that would be great.
On my list, also related to containerization, I'm working on a host networking ports isolator, and
Oh, okay,
I have
great.
some ideas and plans around audit support. So
Okay, so that's great. So I can put that into like pending agenda items, and it depends on like your guys' time or something like that. You can like put into different slots. So I hear like capability stuff, host port isolator, and yanx and Gilbert Jason's like pre-post hooks. These 3 items. I think maybe we don't have time to go through all of them next time. So we will just see if we can go through 2 of them and then move the next one to the next meeting. Sounds good?
Right. So James, I guess now that you're doing it, might as well put it on this spreadsheet and have a Jira to go with it.
sure, I filed a Jira yesterday, and I can update this as well.
Thank you, James. Thanks, James. Great. Thank you, everyone. I think we are out of time. I want to respect everyone's time. So see you guys next time. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.